Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we plunge into a stack of sources to extract those essential nuggets of knowledge, helping you stay well-informed with surprising facts and, hopefully just enough humor.
Hopefully.
Today, we're tackling a question really as old as commerce itself. What if the secret to building lasting wealth isn't some complex algorithm or, a hidden market trend? What if it's just a collection of straightforward, almost timeless principles laid out by a 19th century showman, an astute businessman, and even at times, let's face it, a scam artist?
Right, P.T. Barnum.
That's the one. We're diving into the mind of Phineas Taylor Barnum, born 1810, captivated the world until his death in 1891. American showman, embodiment of entertainment, founder of that legendary circus.
The Ringling Bros.
Yeah.
And Barnum and Bailey Circus, yeah. The greatest show on earth.
Exactly. But, okay, it feels a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? Seeking financial wisdom from a guy who famously blurred the lines between fact and fiction. How do we reconcile that flamboyant showmanship, those sometimes questionable practices, with genuine, grounded financial advice?
Well, that's precisely the fascinating paradox we're diving into today. I mean, while he's often mistakenly credited with, there's a sucker born every minute.
Which he apparently never actually said.
Probably not, no. But he did author several books, including our focus today, The Art of Money Getting, published way back in 1880.
Okay, 1880.
And what's truly astonishing is this. At the end of the 19th century, his autobiography, which he deliberately allowed to be published really cheap, like dime novel style, was second only to the New Testament in North America in terms of copies printed.
Get out. Really? Second only to the Bible.
That's the claim. So yeah, despite his reputation, this man reached the masses with practical advice.
Wow.
So our mission today is to take a deep dive into that very book. It's a surprising treasure trove of advice, and frankly, it's remarkably relevant even now.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Our goal is to extract his golden rules, those nuggets of knowledge that can help you gain insight quickly, thoroughly, maybe even spark some aha moments about your own financial approach. We'll unpack these principles, not just what they are, but why they still seem to matter in our modern, often really complex world. Looking at these enduring truths through Barnum's unique and surprisingly earnest lens.
All right, let's do it. So you mentioned the personal foundation first, the bedrock stuff that goes beyond just earning. He apparently said that in 19th century America, making money was, and I'm quoting here, not at all difficult for healthy folks.
Yeah, his reasoning was, more land than people, plenty of opportunities, avenues of success weren't crowded yet. It was a different landscape.
Right. But here's where he says it gets really interesting. The true difficulty isn't making it.
It's keeping it.
Exactly, keeping it. He says many people grasp the first part, but just completely stumble on the second.
And this is where he immediately taps into some timeless wisdom, doesn't he? He echoes Dr. Franklin.
Ben Franklin.
Yep. Who famously said, the road to wealth is as plain as the road to the mill. It simply consists of expending less than we earn.
Sounds so simple. Deceptively simple, maybe.
Deceptively. But it's precisely where so many falter. And Barnum drives this home brilliantly, using Dickens, the character Mr. Micawber.
Oh, right, from David Copperfield. Something will turn up.
That's him. Micawber explains, if your income is 20 pounds a year and you spend 20 pounds and 6 cents, result, misery, utter misery.
Yeah.
But if your income is 20 pounds and you only spend 19 pounds and 6 pence, result, happiness. You're the happiest of mortals.
Such a clear illustration.
It perfectly encapsulates that foundational principle. The absolute necessity of a surplus, no matter how small it seems. The core insight for you, listening right now, is that it's not primarily about how much you make. It's about that consistent margin you create between what comes in and what goes out.
That's a huge mindset shift, isn't it? Because Barnum points out lots of people think they get economy, but they mistake it for, meanness.
Right, or they do it inconsistently.
Yeah. They think they're being thrifty, saving pennies on, paper clips, but then blow a fortune on something else entirely. They miss the point of true economy.
Exactly. And his examples are still so spot on today. He talks about these common misapprehensions, like the farmer's wife saving a few bucks on candles, right? Living in dim light, maybe missing valuable info she could get from reading.
Okay.
But because she felt so frugal about the candles, she then feels justified spending $20 or $30 a lot back then on unnecessary ribbons and fur blows at the village store.
Ah, the classic trade-off. False economy.
Totally. Or Think about businessmen meticulously saving old envelopes, paper scraps,
Penny pinching.
but then wasting valuable time, throwing lavish parties, driving expensive carriages. Barnum brings in Franklin again, saving at the spigot and wasting at the bunhole.
Or penny wise and pound foolish. We still say that.
We do. And Punch magazine apparently had a joke about a guy buying a single penny herring for dinner, then hiring a coach and 4 horses to take it home.
Laughs.
Ah.
Okay, that's pretty extreme.
But it makes the point. True economy isn't about these isolated acts of being stingy. It's about a consistent, conscious, sort of holistic approach to ensuring your income always exceeds your outgo.
So it's less about random cost cutting and more about a fundamental shift in how you think about spending, like value-based economy for your own life.
Precisely. It's about being deliberate, understanding the true cost and the true value of your choices. And he gives a really practical tool for this, calls it a recipe for extravagance.
Okay, what's the recipe?
He advises keeping an expenditure journal. Simple, right? 2 columns, necessaries or comforts, and luxuries. Post to it regularly.
Like tracking your spending. We still talk about that.
Yep. And he says you'll often find that luxury column is double, treble, and frequently 10 times greater than the necessities column.
Wow. That's eye-opening.
It really illustrates his point. The real comforts of life cost but a small portion of what most of us can earn. It's a very practical self-diagnostic tool, a way for you to see where your money's actually going, maybe without realizing it.
Okay, this next one hits close to home, I think, even today. Barnum dives into that social trap. It is the eyes of others and not our own eyes which ruin us.
Oof, yeah.
He's talking about the fear of what Mrs. Grundy may say, that pressure to keep up appearances, even when it makes no financial sense. It's like 19th century social media pressure.
It absolutely is. And his examples are still just painfully relatable. Take the guy earning $1,000 a year, trying to copy the $50,000 a year guy.
How?
By hiring a horse and buggy just to ride on the same road, trying to prove he's just as good. But Barnum's like, this guy deceives nobody. And meanwhile, his poor wife is obliged to scrub her fingers off at home, buying tea by the single ounce, all so he can keep up appearances.
That's grim.
Or there's Mrs. Smith. Here's her wealthier neighbor married for money. So what does she do? Runs out and buys an imitation camel's hair shawl just to prove equality.
Oh, the comparison game. Still alive and well.
Totally. Barnum connects this directly to what he calls society back then. Maybe a handful of people calling themselves the aristocracy, setting these false standards of perfection. And in trying to meet them, he argues, we just constantly keep ourselves poor, always digging away for the sake of outside appearances. The core insight, your budget, not your neighbor's Instagram feed, should be your guide.
He says it's much wiser to be a law unto ourselves, regulate our outgo by our income, and save for a rainy day. It's about financial independence over social validation.
He totally gets that it's hard at first, especially if you're accustomed to gratify every whim and caprice. Cutting back smaller house, less stuff, fewer parties feels like a massive sacrifice.
Yeah, denial.
But Barnum promises there's immense pleasure in actually adding to that nest egg. He emphasizes the economical habits this discipline builds. He even contrasts simple pleasures like playing tap water, tasting amazing when you're truly thirsty, or a brisk walk being more exhilarating than a fancy carriage ride, or just chatting with family being better than some stuffy, expensive party. He says people who learn to save start to appreciate the difference in cost and find joy in that frugality, not just the superficial display. It's a real shift in values.
He even tells that wild story about the sofa, right? The one that cost $30,000.
Oh, that anecdote is incredible. A gentleman of fortune recounts how buying one single elegant sofa.
Just one sofa.
Just one sofa. But then, of course, it was found necessary to get chairs to match, then sideboards, carpets, tables to correspond. Then the house itself seemed quite too small and old-fashioned for the furniture.
Oh, no.
So, new house. He figures that one sofa ultimately led to a $30,000 outlay, plus an annual expense of $11,000 for servants, carriages, just maintaining the fancy establishment. Nearly bankrupted him, only saved by some unexampled tide of prosperity.
Wow, that's a cautionary tale about lifestyle creep if ever there was one.
It really is. That snowball effect of trying to keep up with just one initial luxury, it's a powerful warning. Letting external pressures and a lack of internal discipline dictate your spending can unravel everything way faster than any market crash.
Okay, so get your spending under control, live within your means, don't worry about Mrs. Grundy. What else is foundational?
Well, before he even really dives into business specifics, Barnum lays down another critical foundation. Health.
Yeah. Health. Okay, how does that connect?
He's blunt about it. The foundation of success in life is good health. That is the substratum of fortune. It is also the basis of happiness. You just can't accumulate wealth effectively if you're sick or constantly drained.
That's actually a point you don't hear often in finance bro discussions, but it makes perfect sense. If your body's struggling, your mind isn't clear, your drive just tanks.
Exactly. Your capacity to earn, to manage, it all diminishes. He really emphasizes studying the laws of health, which he basically equates with the laws of nature. And he warns against the sin of ignorance. Nature doesn't care if you know the rules or not. It exacts its penalty.
Ignorance isn't bliss when it comes to health.
Nope. He gives this almost funny but kind of stark example of our ancestors building tiny 7 by 9 feet bedrooms with terrible ventilation because they didn't understand oxygen.
Uh-oh.
These good old pious Puritans, he says, would lock themselves in, say their prayers, go to sleep, and then in the morning devoutly return thanks for the preservation of their lives. He jokes that a crack in the window probably saved them.
Black's lucky break.
But it highlights the point. Even well-meaning people suffer if they violate natural laws. And then he gets really specific, laying into tobacco.
Oh, interesting. What did he say about tobacco back in 1880?
He calls it something nothing living except a vile worm ever naturally loved. Yet people deliberately train an unnatural appetite, overcoming their natural implanted aversion to it. Huh. Strong words.
And he observes that an artificial habit is stronger than nature. He claims a tobacco chewer might give up roast beef more easily than his quid.
Wow. That addiction cycle.
Yeah. The modern takeaway is pretty clear. Self-destructive habits, even ones that seem minor, are just a silent drain on your energy, your focus, and ultimately, your financial potential.
That image of the quid over roast beef is powerful. And didn't he have his own scare with tobacco?
He did. He shares this really frightening personal story. He was smoking 10 or 15 cigars a day.
15 cigars.
Yeah. Led to him trembling like an aspen leaf, blood rushing to his head, heart palpitations. He thought he had heart disease, nearly died of fright. His doctor's advice was simple: break off tobacco using.
A wake-up call.
Big time. And he applies this lesson with, as he puts it, tenfold force to intoxicating drinks. A muddled brain, a warped judgment. They simply prevent successful business.
No, Mehmet sense. Hard to make good decisions when you're impaired. Absolutely. He talks about the lost opportunities, the foolish bargains made under the influence, that nervine that temporarily makes you think you're rich and invincible. He mentions chances put off until tomorrow, then lost forever, because the wine cup just throws your system into a state of lassitude, neutralizing that essential energy.
Kills your drive.
Exactly. He quotes the proverb, "Verily, wine is a mocker." For Barnum, booze is an unmitigated evil, totally destructive to success. He compares it to opium smoking for a businessman. It's a clear warning. Self-discipline over these habits isn't just moral, it's a fundamental business imperative. It's about maintaining your focus and clarity.
Okay, so personal foundation established. Master true economy, ignore the Joneses, prioritize your health, stay clear-headed.
Now, Barnum shifts to the external stuff, right? The actual building blocks of business.
And his very first piece of direct business advice is foundational. Select the vocation which is most congenial to his tastes. Find what you're naturally drawn to.
So it's about passion, or at least aptitude, not just picking something random. Exactly. He really slams the common parental mistake of forcing careers on kids. You know, the dad deciding Billy's going to be a clergyman, John a lawyer, Tom a doctor, Dick a farmer.
Right, without asking Billy or John.
And then, without even considering Sam's natural inclinations or genius, just decrees, Sammy's going to be a goldsmith. Barnum's like, hold on, there's as much diversity in our brains as our faces.
Cool.
Some kids are natural mechanics. He talks about 5-year-olds whittling intricate things, fascinated by complex machines. Then he contrasts it with himself, admitting he had an abhorrence for complicated machinery, couldn't even whittle a leaky cider tap properly.
Laughs, good old PT.
His point is clear. Unless a man enters upon the vocation intended for him by nature, he cannot succeed. Working against your grain, working uphill, is always repulsive. But when it aligns with your natural bent, the work becomes a joy.
Yeah, you get into that flow state.
Right. He mentions the learned blacksmith, who really should have been teaching languages, or professionals in law or medicine who are naturally better fitted for the anvil or the lapstone. The core takeaway is huge. Recognize and align your work with your inherent talents. That's where genuine success and, frankly, fulfillment lie.
That's really crucial, finding the right fit. Okay, so You find your vocation. What's next?
Location, location, location.
Ah, the classic real estate mantra applied to careers.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Barnum stresses the proper location. He says, you might be a genius hotel keeper, absolutely brilliant at it. But if your hotel is in a small village where there is no railroad communication or public travel, the location would be your ruin.
Doesn't matter how good you are if no one can get to you.
Exactly. Skill needs the right environment to thrive.
Yeah.
And he adds to that. Avoid overcrowded fields. Don't jump into something where everyone else is already doing it.
Makes sense. Find your niche, find your space.
And he illustrates this with another fantastic story, this one from London in 1858. He was checking out the penny show's cheap entertainment. And he meets this showman who was, Barnum says, the sharpest man in that line I had ever met. This guy could spin incredible tales about his exhibits, even some dirty old wax figures he claimed were taken from life.
A real hustler.
Totally.
Hmm.
Barnum challenges him on this one lean, lank wax figure labeled Henry VIII, which looked more like a famous living skeleton performer.
Chuckles.
And the showman, without missing a beat, retorts, you would be lean and lank yourself if you sat there as long as he has.
Brilliant comeback. Barnum must have loved that.
He admitted he was beaten. He recognized the guy's talent, right? So a couple days later, Barnum goes back and tells him, my friend, you are an excellent showman, but you have selected a bad location.
Calling him out.
The showman agrees, feels his talents are thrown away in London's crowded scene. So Barnum makes him an offer. Come to America with me, plenty of elbow room there. You can give full play to your faculties.
Wow. A job offer on the spot.
Yep. And the result. The showman accepts, works for Barnum for 2 years, then starts his own traveling show. And according to Barnum, he eventually became worth $60,000, a fortune back then, simply by changing his location.
Incredible. Just moving geographically unlocked his potential.
It perfectly illustrates the point. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, despite your talent, a bad location will ruin you. Barnum quotes the proverb, 3 removes are as bad as a fire, meaning moving is disruptive. But, he adds, if you're already in the fire, you better move quickly.
Good advice. Don't stick around in a burning building, basically. The insight for you is clear. Even the best talent needs the right environment. Sometimes a strategic move, even if it feels disruptive, is the only path forward.
Vocation, location, what's next?
Okay, with those foundational blocks, right job, right place, Barnum then zooms in on a quality that's absolutely essential for any journey, financial or otherwise.
Persevere.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
Stick to itiveness. Exactly. It's not just about starting strong, but about enduring, especially when things get tough, when you hit those inevitable roadblocks.
He acknowledges that some people seem born tired, naturally lazy, lacking that drive. But he insists these qualities, self-reliance, that perseverance can be cultivated. It's not just something you have or don't have.
You can build that muscle.
Right. He quotes Davy Crockett. This thing, remember, when I am dead, be sure you are right, then go ahead. It's about having that go-aheaditiveness, the determination not to let the horrors, or the blues as he calls them, take over. Not relaxing your energies in the struggle for independence.
Don't give in to despair.
He asks, how many people have almost reached the goal of their ambition, but losing faith in themselves have relaxed their energies, and the golden prize has been lost forever.
Ouch. Giving up right before the finish line.
It reminds us that often the only real difference between success and failure is just refusing to quit. Just keeping going.
Shakespeare pops into my head here. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. Barnum seems to be saying, if you hesitate on that tide,
some bolder hand will stretch out and seize the prize.
exactly.
He reinforces it with Solomon's proverb. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. It's about consistent effort.
Diligence pays off.
And he connects perseverance directly to self-reliance. He notes many people naturally look on the dark side of life and borrow trouble. They ask for advice, but then get governed by one wind and blown by another, easily swayed.
Lacking conviction.
Yeah, he states bluntly. Until you can get so that you can rely upon yourself, you need not expect to succeed. You need that internal compass. He mentions knowing men who ended their lives after financial setbacks,
Tragic.
but also others who faced even more serious difficulties and managed to bridge them over by simple perseverance, aided by a firm belief that they were doing justly. They just kept fighting.
Believing in themselves and their cause.
He uses this vivid military analogy. 2 generals, equally talented, equally educated in tactics,
Okay.
but one lacks perseverance. When the enemy advances with cannon fire, he hesitates, becomes irresolute. His troops lose confidence, and it leads to ruin.
Fear takes over.
The other general, though, is full of pluck, perseverance, and self-reliance. He goes into battle with a will, inspiring his soldiers with fortitude, valor, and triumph.
Leading from the front, basically.
It's a powerful metaphor for facing business challenges. Don't flinch. Face them head-on with conviction. The actionable advice for you is to cultivate that inner strength, that self-reliance. It's the bedrock for overcoming any setback life throws at you.
Absolutely essential. Okay, so perseverance is key. Following that, Barnum's next principle feels related. Whatever you do, do it with all your might.
Yeah. This isn't just about what you do, but the intensity you bring to it.
Right. He advises working early and late, in season and out of season, not leaving a stone unturned, and never deferring for a single hour.
Yeah.
All in.
He emphasizes the proverb we still use. Whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. Total commitment.
He contrasts the person who gets rich by doing their business thoroughly
with the neighbor who stays poor because they only half do it, just going through the motions. Ambition, energy, industry, perseverance. These are, he says flat out, indispensable requisites for success in business.
No half measures.
None. And fortune always favors the brave and never helps a man who does not help himself. Got to make your own luck, basically.
This is where he warns against just waiting around for something good to happen, right? Like Mr. Macabre again, waiting for something to turn up.
Yeah, exactly. Macabre's fate, Barnum warns, often involves the poorhouse or the jail. Why? Because idleness breeds bad habits, dresses you in rags, figuratively and literally. He even tells that funny story about the poor spendthrift vagabond.
The one who wants money divided equally.
Yeah. Someone asks him, okay, fine, we divide it all up, but what happens in 2 months when you've spent it all? And the guy just replies, oh, divide again. Keep dividing, of course.
Laughs. Completely missing the point about personal effort and responsibility.
Totally. It reminds me of Oliver Cromwell's famous line, not only trust in Providence, but keep the powder dry.
Do your part first. Don't just rely on fate or handouts.
Precisely. And Barnum adds another one. Muhammad telling his follower who wanted to just loose his camel and trust God. The prophet apparently said, no, not so. Tie thy camel and trust it to God.
Take practical precautions, then have faith.
The message is crystal clear. Do everything you can for yourselves first. Then trust providence or luck or whatever you want to call it for the rest. And that idea, doing all you can yourself, leads directly to his next big point.
Yeah.
Depend upon your own personal exertions.
Meaning you can't just delegate everything. You have to understand it yourself.
Exactly. Nobody can understand their business thoroughly unless he learns it by personal application and experience. You have to get your hands dirty.
So the boss needs to know the nuts and bolts.
Barnum puts it powerfully. The eye of the employer is often worth more than the hands of a dozen others. Agents, employees, no matter how faithful, just can't be as invested or observant as the proprietor.
They don't have the same skin in the game.
Right. Even the best employees might overlook things that the owner, with their deeper understanding and higher stakes, wouldn't miss. He also points out that mistakes aren't necessarily bad.
Oh, how so?
They're helps, he says, if you actually heed them. They're part of gaining experience. She uses the example of a Yankee tin peddler, a traveling salesman who got cheated once.
Okay.
Instead of just getting mad, the peddler apparently said, all right, there's a little information to be gained every day. I will never be cheated in that way again.
Learning from failure, treating it as tuition.
Exactly. That's how a person buys his experience. And it's the best kind, as long as you don't pay too dearly for it. The ultimate insight here is that your deep personal knowledge of your own business is absolutely irreplaceable.
He really doubles down on this with that amazing story about Cuvier, the French naturalist.
Oh, the Cuvier anecdote is fantastic, shows the power of expertise. Cuvier was apparently so good, he could reconstruct an entire animal just from seeing a single bone.
That's incredible skill.
So his students decide to prank him. One of them wraps himself in a cowskin, crawls under Cuvier's table, pretending to be some new devilish creature.
Chuckles. Okay, I see where this is going.
The student under the table growls, I am the devil and I am going to eat you.
And Cuvier.
Cuvier, examining the creature intently, just calmly declares, divided hoof, graminivorous, it cannot be done.
Meaning?
Meaning, he saw the cloven hoof, like a cow's, knew that meant the animal eats grass and grain, graminivorous, and therefore it couldn't possibly eat him. His perfect knowledge of his business meant he wasn't fooled for a second.
That's brilliant. He knew the fundamental rules. It shows the power of deep expertise.
Absolutely. It perfectly illustrates Barnum's point about the absolute necessity of knowing your field inside and out. Now, building on this idea of Juve understanding, Barnum presents Rothschild's famous apparent paradox. Be cautious and bold.
That does sound contradictory. How can he be both at once? Cautious and bold?
Barnum explains it's actually condensed wisdom. It means you must exercise your caution in laying your plans, but be bold in carrying them out.
Ah, okay. Plan carefully, execute decisively.
Exactly. Someone who's all caution. They'll never dare to take hold and be successful. They'll always hesitate, miss the boat.
Analysis paralysis.
Right. But someone who's all boldness, they're just reckless, bound to fail eventually.
Yeah.
You need both working together. Careful calculation before you make that decisive move. The modern business lesson is clear. Strategic risk-taking involves thorough due diligence followed by committed action.
Got it. Caution in planning, boldness in execution. Did Rothschild have any other gems?
Yep. Barnum shares another maxim. Never have anything to do with an unlucky man or place.
Whoa, that sounds superstitious. Avoid unlucky people.
It does sound like that, but Barnum quickly clarifies. There is no such thing in the world as luck. Not really. Instead, he says, remember that, like, causes produce like effects. If someone fails repeatedly, there's usually a reason. A fault in their approach, their judgment, their habits, even if it's not immediately obvious. True success, he argues, comes from applying the right methods, not from random chance or associating with lucky people.
So unlucky is just code for doesn't have their act together.
Pretty much. It's about recognizing patterns and understanding that results stem from actions, not mystical forces.
Okay, that makes more sense. So rely on yourself, know your stuff, be cautious, then bold. What else is in this building block section?
The final piece is use the best tools.
Tools like hammers and saws or...
Well, yes, good physical tools are important, but Barnum emphasizes no tool you should be so particular about as living tools, your employees.
People as the most important asset. That sounds modern.
It really does. He advocates for keeping good employees because they gain experience, become more valuable over time. A good employee, he says, is worth more to you this year than last.
Invest in your people.
However, he also has a warning. Beware of employees who become exorbitant in their salary demands because they start thinking they're invaluable.
The indispensable employee syndrome.
Right. Barnum says he would actually discharge such individuals. First, to convince him that his place may be supplied, proving nobody is truly irreplaceable. And second, because that kind of attitude makes them good for nothing, their ego gets in the way.
Tough love, maybe, but makes a point.
And he clarifies the real value isn't just hands, it's brains. He talks about seeing signs saying hands wanted, but notes that hands without heads to direct them are worth little.
Need the thinking power.
He uses a great illustration from a famous preacher, Mr. Beecher. Beecher describes an employee who has maybe one finger that thinks, then maybe two fingers, then maybe all his fingers and thumbs think. But the best employee is the one who says, I have a brain that thinks. I think all over. I am a thinking as well as a working man.
That's the person you want, the problem solver, the innovator.
That's the one the employer truly wants, Beecher says.
Yeah.
So the takeaway here is clear. Men and women with brains, with experience, who think proactively they're the most valuable tools. They're worth reasonable salary advances, and you shouldn't part with them readily. It's about recognizing that intellectual contribution far outweighs mere physical labor.
It's a really insightful view on human capital for the 1880s. Okay, so we've got the personal foundation, the building blocks. Now let's talk strategic execution. Growing the enterprise wisely. Barnum hits hard with, don't get above your business.
Yeah, this is aimed squarely at young people starting out. He sees many, right after finishing their apprenticeship, falling into this trap of waiting for dead men's shoes.
Meaning waiting for an inheritance or maybe a lucky break.
Exactly. Or hoping to borrow a load of money to start big because they feel they're somehow above starting small or working for someone else for a while.
That feeling of entitlement, maybe. I'm too good for entry level.
Could be. Barnum says there's no greater mistake than when a young man believes he will succeed with borrowed money. He brings in the wisdom of Mr. Astor, the super wealthy John Jacob Astor.
Right, the fur and real estate tycoon.
Astor apparently said it was more difficult for him to accumulate his first $1,000 than all the succeeding millions.
Wow, that first step is the hardest.
Because you have to earn it. Barnum hammers this. Money gained too easily, easy come, easy go, just isn't valued properly. You don't develop the necessary self-denial, economy, patience, perseverance. These qualities come from earning your capital.
You appreciate what you struggled for.
So instead of waiting for dead men's shoes, young people should be up and doing. He points out that 9 out of 10 of the rich men of our country today, meaning back then, started out in life as poor boys with determined wills, industry, perseverance, economy, and good habits. The modern lesson: earned wealth is almost always more sustainable, more appreciated, and builds better character than easy money.
And he gives those incredible examples, right? Stephen Gerrard, starting as a poor cabin boy, died worth $9 million.
A.T. Stewart, a poor Irish immigrant boy, ended up with an annual income of $1.5 million, staggering back then.
John Jacob Astor, poor farmer boy, died worth $20 million. Cornelius Vanderbilt started rowing a ferry boat, died with $50 million.
Just amazing rags to riches stories, all built on those core principles Barnum keeps talking about: will, industry, perseverance, economy, good habits.
And he's basically saying there is no royal road to wealth, no shortcuts.
Exactly. The real royal road, he argues, involves expanding your intellect, studying human nature, accumulating that first bit of principle through sheer hard work, and then letting it grow patiently.
He contrasts this with the fate of rich kids, doesn't he?
He does. He observes that, as a general thing, the poor boys get rich and the rich boys get poor. It's a harsh generalization, maybe, but he paints a picture. Rich boys, often pampered, showered with luxuries, never learn the value of a dollar. They wine and dine their buddies, throw lavish parties, get into frolics and debauchery. They often end up losing their inheritance, their health, their purse, their character. Their experience, he says ironically, leads them on but to ruin.
While the poor boys, through hard knocks and struggle, learn the lessons needed to build wealth.
Precisely. And he makes an interesting cultural point. In America, he says, the man makes the business. Your background doesn't define you as much. Unlike England, maybe, where the business makes the man, where social standing was more tied to established structures. In America, any legitimate business allows a man to be seen as a gentleman.
That's a very American ideal, isn't it? Meritocracy.
It is. And flowing from that, he says the great ambition shouldn't just be to do the business, but to excel all others engaged in it, to be the best. He tells that great story about the law student asking an old lawyer if the profession is full.
Oh, yeah. What was the lawyer's reply?
The lawyer apparently said, "The basement is much crowded, but there's plenty of room upstairs."
Laughs fantastic. There's always room at the top for excellence.
That's exactly Barnum's point. No profession, trade, or calling is overcrowded in the upper story. The most honest, the most intelligent merchant, banker, lawyer, doctor, even shoemaker, they're always sought after, always have enough work. He criticizes Americans slightly for being too superficial, trying to get rich too quickly, rather than doing business substantially and thoroughly.
Quality over speed.
His motto for everyone: Excelsior. Aim higher. Because if you combine excellence with honesty and integrity, he believes there is no such word as fail. The key insight for you is to aim for genuine excellence in your chosen field, not just chase the quickest buck.
Solid advice. Okay, sticking with strategic growth, he offers something simple but really vital. Learn something useful.
Yeah, this one's very practical. He insists every man should make his son or daughter learn some trade or profession, a concrete skill.
Why is that so important?
Because, he says, we live in days of changing fortunes. You can be rich today, poor tomorrow. Unexpected turns happen. Having a tangible skill, a trade or profession to fall back on.
It's a safety net.
Exactly. It might save many persons from misery, he says, if they suddenly lose all their means. It's about building a fundamental skill set, that core competence. For you today, this translates to cultivating transferable skills, lifelong learning, ensuring you always have something of inherent value to offer, no matter how the economy shifts or your specific job changes.
Always have a marketable skill. Good point. Then he offers a bit of caution, doesn't he? Let hope predominate, but be not too visionary.
Hope is essential, he agrees. You need optimism. But being too visionary can actually keep people poor.
How so? Too much dreaming, not enough doing.
Kind of. It's people who always see success in every new project and are constantly jumping from one thing to another, never settling down, never seeing anything through.
Chasing shiny objects.
Right. He calls it counting the chickens before they are hatched. An error, he notes wryly, of ancient date, but it does not seem to improve by age. These folks are always in hot water, always under the harrow, never quite finding stability. The insight for us: Grounded optimism is crucial, yes, but it must be balanced with realism, with disciplined focus on execution, not just chasing the next fleeting idea.
And that lack of focus is exactly what he tackles next. Do not scatter your powers.
This one is crystal clear, Barnum advises. Engage in one kind of business only and stick to it faithfully until you succeed or until your experience shows that you should abandon it.
One thing at a time. Focus.
He uses a great simple metaphor. A constant hammering on one nail will generally drive it home at last. Undivided attention, he explains, allows your mind to constantly be suggesting improvements of value, ideas for making that one thing better.
Whereas if you're juggling too much,
Your brain is occupied by a dozen different subjects at once, and those valuable insights, those opportunities for improvement, just get missed. He says many a fortune has slipped through a man's fingers because they were trying to do too many things. It's that old caution against having too many irons in the fire at once.
focus and dedication are paramount. For your efforts, listening now, this means recognizing that true mastery, significant returns, usually come from concentrated, persistent effort in one well-chosen direction. Don't spread yourself too thin.
Absolutely. Nail that one thing first.
Okay, focus is key. What about organization? How does Barnum view that?
He hits it directly. Be systematic. Having a system in business, he says, having a time and place for everything, doing his work promptly, allows a person to accomplish twice as much and with half the trouble.
Efficiency through organization. Makes sense.
It allows for leisure, for recreation, because things get done properly.
Yeah.
Unlike the person who's always half doing things, whose business is perpetually at loose ends, whose work is never done.
That frantic, always behind feeling, system avoids that.
Right. However, Barnum, being Barnum, adds a crucial warning. Even good principles can be taken entirely too far. You can be too systematic.
How so? Can you be too organized?
He tells this hilarious story about the legendary Astor House Hotel in New York, which was famous for its rigid system. The owners were incredibly proud of it, even had these elaborate fire drills involving 60 servants lining up a water buckets.
Okay, sounds impressive, if a bit much.
But then, what happens when that rigid system clashes with common sense? One time the hotel was absolutely packed, just thronged with guests. And one waiter called in sick.
Okay, one waiter out of 50 or 60.
Exactly. But the landlord apparently panicked because having one waiter missing interfered with his precious system.
Oh, come on.
So he rushes off to find Boots, the guy who polished shoes, an Irishman named Pat, and tells him he has to quickly become a waiter for the day.
Trial by fire for poor Pat.
You got it. Later, the landlord instructs Pat on the Astor House system. You must first give the gentlemen each a plate of soup, and when they finish that, ask them what they will have next.
Simple enough, right?
Seems straightforward. Soup first, then ask.
So Pat goes out. One guest, however, doesn't want his soup. He asks Pat for fish instead.
Okay, reasonable request.
But Pat, remembering the landlord's strict injunction about the system, replies, "Not till you have ate your soup."
Lapse, no fish until you finish your soup. Oh, Pat. That, Barnum concludes with a chuckle, was carrying system entirely too far. It's a brilliant example of how blind adherence to rules can just defeat common sense and good service. The takeaway for you, establish effective systems, absolutely. But always allow for flexibility, for judgment, for common sense to override rigid procedures when necessary.
Don't let the system become the master. Got it. Okay, next piece of advice sounds surprisingly modern, especially for 1880. Read the newspapers.
It really does, doesn't it? Barnum states it plainly. Always take a trustworthy newspaper, and thus keep thoroughly posted in regard to the transactions of the world. He even declares, "He who is without a newspaper is cut off from his species." Strong words.
Cut off from his species? Wow, why was it so critical back then?
Because, he says, it was an age of telegraphs and steam. New inventions, new improvements were happening constantly in every trade. Information traveled faster. He who don't consult the newspapers, Barnum warns, will soon find himself and his business left out in the cold.
You'll fall behind if you're not informed.
Exactly. It just underscores the timeless importance of staying informed, being adaptable in a world that's always changing. For you today, obviously, it's not just newspapers. It's about actively seeking out reliable information news sites, trade journals, podcasts like this one, whatever, to understand the currents shaping your industry, your market, the broader world. You can't operate in a vacuum.
Stay plugged in. Makes sense. Okay, staying informed is crucial. And then comes a big warning. Beware of outside operations.
Ah, yes. This tackles the question. Why do some apparently successful fortunes suddenly vanish? Barnum points to common culprits like intemperance, drinking, and gaming, Gambling.
Right, the usual suspects.
But he adds another major cause, because a man has been engaged in outside operations of some sort, speculations outside his actual business.
Dabbling where you don't belong.
Pretty much. He describes a common scenario. A man becomes successful in his main business. People flatter him, tell him he's born lucky. He starts to believe it, forgetting that his success actually came from economical habits, his rectitude of conduct, and a personal attention to a business which he understood.
He forgets the real reasons for his success, gets cocky.
Exactly. Then he listens to those siren voices, promising easy riches, and invests heavily in some grand speculation, something completely outside his expertise.
Like a successful baker investing in, I don't know, a South American silver mine he knows nothing about.
Perfect example. He puts in, say, $20,000, expecting a quick $60,000 back. Then, oops, another $10,000 is needed for unexpected difficulties, then another $20,000 for unforeseen matters.
Throwing good money after bad.
Right, and before he sees a dime in return, the bubble bursts, the whole thing collapses, and he loses everything, maybe even his original successful business too.
That's a painful lesson. What's Barnum's takeaway?
He puts it very powerfully. However successful a man may be in his own business, if he turns from that and engages in a business which he don't understand, he is like Samson when shorn of his locks. His strength has departed.
Wow. Your strength lies in what you know. Stray from that, and you're vulnerable.
That's the core message. Now, Barnum does add a nuance. If a man has plenty of extra money, he says, he ought to invest moderately in things that seem promising and might benefit society. That's fine. But the stern warning is, never let a man foolishly jeopardize a fortune that he has earned in a legitimate way by plunging into areas where he has zero experience. Stick to your knitting, or at least severely limit your exposure to things you don't truly understand.
Sound advice. Stick to what you know. And this seems to lead perfectly into his next major warning, which is about protecting the wealth you have built. Don't endorse without security.
Yes, this is huge. Endorsing a note means guaranteeing someone else's debt, co-signing, basically. Barnum is emphatic. No man ought ever to endorse a note or become security for any man, be it his father or brother, to a greater extent than he can afford to lose and without good security.
Don't risk more than you can afford to lose, even for family, unless you have collateral. That's strict.
It is. But he explains why through another very common insidious scenario. You have a friend, seems successful, worth maybe $20,000. He's doing well. He asks you to endorse a $5,000 note so he can buy more goods, expand, maybe double his money.
Seems reasonable, right? Helping a friend grow.
It feels safe. You accommodate him. He makes the profit, pays off the note. Everything looks good. You do it again. Now, an impression gets fixed in your mind. It's perfectly safe to endorse this guy's notes without needing security.
Complacency sets in.
Right. But here's the trouble, as Barnum calls it. This man is getting money too easily. It wasn't his capital, his risk entirely. And that easy access tempts him towards speculation outside of his business. That same trap again.
Ah, the outside operations bite again.
So maybe he needs a $10,000 note now for some temporary investment he heard about. And you, trusting him, thinking it's safe, you sign it almost mechanically. You're firmly convinced that your friend is responsible and trustworthy.
You're enabling him without realizing the risk.
Exactly. But the speculation fails. He needs another $10,000 note, maybe just to cover the interest on the last one. Then the whole speculation proves an utter failure. All the money is lost. Does he tell you?
Probably not. He's trying to fix it.
Right. He's now excited by the spirit of speculation, trying desperately to look for his money where he loses it, trying to win it back, and endorsing notes becomes chronic with you. At every loss, he comes back, needing your signature for bigger and bigger amounts.
It's a downward spiral.
Until finally, the whole house of cards collapses. You discover your friend has lost all of his property and all of yours. You're wiped out, and you say, "My friend here has ruined me."
But Barnum adds a twist, doesn't he?
A painful twist. He insists you should add, "I have also ruined him."
Whoa. How? By helping him.
Because by making it too easy for him to get money he hadn't earned, you allowed him to go beyond the length of his tether. You enabled him to get tempted into those hazardous speculations he couldn't really afford and wasn't prepared for.
That's a profound, almost brutal sense of responsibility. Helping can sometimes harm if it removes the necessary struggle and discipline.
It is. Barnum quotes Solomon again, "He that hateth suretyship is sure." Basically, avoid guaranteeing others' debts if you want to be safe. His message is stark. Facilitating easy money, even with good intentions, can lead to ruin for everyone involved. The insight for us. True financial strength often comes from earning those first dollars through hard knocks, through sacrifice. It's not just about protecting your assets, but about not inadvertently enabling others to bypass the crucial learning process that comes with earning and valuing money properly.
Wow, that's a lot to think about regarding helping friends and family. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We've covered personal foundations, business building blocks, strategic execution. Now, Barnum talks about public engagement and, crucially, ethics. These seem woven right into his financial advice.
Absolutely. They're not separate categories for him. And his first point here is bold and very Barnum-esque. Advertise your business.
Makes sense for a showman.
Right. He says, once you've got a genuinely valuable product or service, something that actually satisfies customers, you must let the fact be known that you have got it. Advertise.
Don't hide your light under a bushel.
Exactly. A good article nobody knows about brings zero return. And in a country like America, where even then nearly everybody reads, newspapers were the key channel. He boils it down beautifully. The whole philosophy of life is first sow, then reap. Advertising is the sowing.
You got to plant the seeds to get the harvest, but he adds a warning, right? About authenticity.
Crucially, he warns that advertising a spurious article, something fake or shoddy, will ultimately fail. The public, he insists, is wiser than many imagine. You might fool people once, get some initial sales through hype, but soon you'll be denounced as an imposter and your business will just gradually die out. The takeaway for your business is clear. Genuine value must be communicated effectively, but never, ever falsely. Build on substance.
Honesty in advertising, even from Barnum. Okay, and he had a specific insight about the amount of advertising needed, didn't he?
Yes. This is fascinating. He says, a little advertising is a dangerous thing. He actually cites a French writer who observed it often takes 7 insertions of an advertisement before it leads to a purchase. 7 times.
Wow. Takes repetition to cut through the noise.
You need pluck, Barnum says, to keep advertising until the public actually becomes aware. Persistence is key.
He illustrates this with, was it a story about whiskey?
Yeah, a slightly rough analogy. He mentions a man who's already spent $1 trying to get drunk, but needs just 10 cents more worth of whiskey to actually achieve the desired effect to save the dollar already expended.
Okay, so the point is?
The point is that initial advertising spend is wasted if you don't follow through with enough advertising to actually make an impact. It has to be continuous, sufficient to be effective. Otherwise, that first investment is just lost.
Don't start if you can't commit to seeing it through. And he gives some great examples of clever advertising, right?
Oh, classic Barnum examples. There's a store owner who just put up a sign saying, don't read the other side.
And of course,
everybody read the other side. He first got their attention through sheer curiosity, then apparently kept them by treating them well and offering good value. Simple but effective. But the most famous example he gives is Genin, the Hatter.
Ah, yes, Genin. Tell that story again. He bought a concert ticket.
Not just any concert ticket. It was 1850. The famous singer Jenny Lind, the Swedish Nightingale, was touring America, brought over by Barnum himself. Huge sensation. Genin, a New York hatter, went to the auction for the very first ticket to her first concert.
Yeah.
And paid $225 for it.
$225 in 1850 for one ticket. That's insane.
Astronomical. Became national news overnight. Genin, the Hatter, was suddenly famous from coast to coast. People everywhere started wondering, do I own a Genin hat?
Instant brand recognition.
Totally. Barnum tells this anecdote about a town out in Iowa where someone found a beat-up, worthless old Genin hat, and it sold for $9.50 just as a keepsake.
Unbelievable marketing ROI. What was the actual business impact for Genin?
According to Barnum, Genin sold 10,000 extra hats per annum the first 6 years after that stunt. Curiosity brought people in, and because he apparently made a good hat, the quality kept them coming back.
Wow. Bold move, big payoff.
Barnum concludes, look, not everyone needs newspaper ads on that scale, but everyone needs to be known somehow. If people don't know you exist, how can they support you? The insight is clear. Strategic, sometimes bold, and always consistent communication of your genuine value is absolutely paramount.
It's a masterclass in marketing, really. Okay, so make yourself known. But then what? How should you treat people once they do come through the door?
His next rule covers that perfectly. Be polite and kind to your customers. He calls politeness and civility the best capital ever invested in business. Forget fancy stores, gilt signs, flashy ads. All that proves worthless if you treat your patrons rudely or abruptly.
Customer service matters more than anything.
Like begets like. He states simply, treat people well, they'll treat you well, or at least keep coming back. The most generous, polite business person will get the most patronage. He brings up the golden rule. As ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them. Basic human decency as a business strategy.
He warns against sharp dealing, too, right?
Yeah, those sharp bargainers who act like they never expect to see a customer again, well, guess what? They won't see them again. People don't like to pay and get kicked also. Treat every transaction like you want a long-term relationship.
Makes sense. And he had a story from his own museum about this involving an usher.
A classic. An usher came to Barnum, furious, wanting to physically whip a customer who had insulted him during a lecture.
Whoa. Violence against a customer?
Right. But Barnum's response was pure business pragmatism mixed with, frankly, wisdom. He told the usher essentially, you can't afford to do that.
Why not? The usher was insulted.
Barnum explained, he pays for that privilege, in a way, and you won't convince him you're a gentleman by whipping him. I cannot afford to lose a customer. He pointed out that if the usher beat the guy up, that man would never return, and he'd tell all his friends to stay away too. Serious financial loss from one employee losing his temper.
So the customer is always right, even when they're wrong.
Not quite right. But Barnum's point was more about the financial reality. When the usher muttered, "But he insulted me," Barnum clarified the power dynamic. If he owned the museum and you had paid him, and he insulted you, maybe you'd have a case. But in this instance, he is the man who pays while we receive, and you must therefore put up with his bad manners.
That's a tough pill to swallow, but a profound business principle. The customer's payment buys them a certain amount of latitude, and maintaining that relationship, that income stream, is a top priority.
It really is. For you listening, it's a potent lesson. Patience, politeness, keeping your cool even in challenging customer interactions. These are fundamental to long-term business health. Don't let ego cost you customers.
A hard but essential lesson. Okay, next, Barnum touches on charity. Be charitable. How does this fit into money getting?
Well, he acknowledges charity is primarily a duty, a pleasure. But he argues it's also a matter of policy. People generally prefer to patronize the liberal, generous person, while the miser is often avoided.
So being charitable can actually be good for business reputation.
That's part of it. He quotes the proverb, "There is that scattereth and yet increaseth." Giving away can lead to getting more back. But he's careful to qualify this. True charity, he says, comes from the heart. And the best kind of charity isn't just indiscriminate handouts.
What is it then?
It's helping those who are willing to help themselves. A hand up, not just a handout. He criticizes promiscuous almsgiving, just giving money to anyone who asks, as ultimately ineffective or even harmful. He prefers quietly assisting those who are genuinely struggling but trying.
Targeted, effective giving.
And he adds this very pragmatic, almost earthy bit of wisdom. He argues against those who would give a prayer instead of a potato and a benediction instead of bread. His take, it is easier to make Christians with full stomachs than empty.
Chuckles. Very direct. Address the basic needs first.
Exactly. It's a pragmatic view to take away. Thoughtful, impactful giving can benefit society, sure, but it can also enhance your reputation, foster goodwill, and that goodwill can translate into patronage. It's not the primary reason to give, but it can be a positive side effect.
Interesting. Okay, then a very simple, direct rule. Don't blab.
Lass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, keep your mouth shut. He warns that some men have a foolish habit of telling their business secrets. This includes everything: profits, hopes, plans, expectations, and especially losses.
Why is telling losses so bad?
Because nothing is gained by it, and oftentimes much is lost. If people know you're struggling, they lose confidence. Suppliers might tighten credit, customers might get nervous, competitors might sense weakness. Discretion is key. This applies to letters too, he warns.
Be careful what you write down.
He even references Goethe's Mephistopheles saying, "Never write a letter nor destroy one." A bit extreme, maybe, but the point is caution. Business people have to write letters or emails today, but they should be careful what they put in them. Crucially, if you're losing money, be especially cautious and not tell of it, or you will lose your reputation. Silence is golden when things are tough. For your professional life, it's a clear directive. Guard your sensitive information wisely. Don't overshare, especially about setbacks.
Keep your cards close to your chest. Solid advice. And finally, we arrive at what Barnum considers the absolute peak, more precious than diamonds or rubies. Preserve your integrity.
Yes, this is his capstone rule, really. He absolutely dismantles that cynical old miser's advice. Get money, get it honestly if you can, but get money. Barnum calls that sentiment atrociously wicked, but also adds, it was the very essence of stupidity.
Stupidity? Why stupid?
Because, he argues, trying to make money dishonestly is actually the most difficult way. Look at the prisons, he says. They're full of people who tried to cut corners, who tried the dishonest route. Dishonesty, he believes, is almost always discovered eventually. And once your integrity is doubted—
Doors close, opportunities vanish.
Exactly. The public very properly shun all whose integrity is doubted. Trust is shattered. He stresses that strict honesty not only lies at the foundation of all success in life, financially, but in every other respect. It's the bedrock of everything.
And it brings rewards beyond money, right?
Absolutely. Uncompromising integrity provides a peace and joy that mere money can never buy. He even makes the bold claim that an honest poor man often has the purses of all the community at his disposal.
How so?
Because people trust him. They know he's good for his word. They'll lend to him, support him, because his integrity is his collateral.
So even just looking at it selfishly, as Ben Franklin famously put it,
Honesty is the best policy. Barnum agrees. It's always true, even viewed as a mere matter of selfishness. It just works better in the long run.
it's the most practical approach.
But he goes beyond just practicality at the end. He clarifies that just getting rich isn't automatically success. There are plenty of rich poor men, wealthy but miserable or morally bankrupt. Money itself, he says, isn't good or bad, it's how it's used. When properly used, it can bless the human race. The desire for wealth is laudable, he believes, if the intention is to use that wealth as a friend to humanity.
So wealth is a tool for good.
Yes. He argues that money-getters are often, despite criticism, benefactors of our race. They're the ones founding the institutions, libraries, colleges, hospitals, museums, churches. He acknowledges misers exist, sure, but sees them as exceptions. His final emphatic charge is, make money honestly and not otherwise. And he closes with Shakespeare. He that wants money, means, and content is without three good friends. You need all three, and integrity is the key to content, and often the means as well. It's a powerful, ethical conclusion. For your ultimate success, Barnum is hammering home that integrity isn't just a nice-to-have moral choice. It's the most practical, enduring foundation for a truly wealthy life, not just a wealthy bank account.
Wow, what a journey through P.T. Barnum's The Art of Money Getting. It really is remarkable how many of his golden rules just land today, doesn't it? Despite his, very complex public image.
It really does. Quite striking.
We've covered so much ground. That deep personal discipline stuff, true economy, avoiding the keeping up appearances trap, prioritizing health. Then the business building blocks, finding the right vocation, the right location, the absolute need for perseverance, doing everything with all your might.
And depending on your own efforts, using the best tools, especially employees with brains.
Right. And the strategic advice, don't get above your business, don't scatter your powers, don't fall for those risky outside operations, plus the practical stuff like being systematic, staying informed by reading the news.
Even advertising ethically, being polite to customers, giving charitably, not blabbing secrets.
And wrapping it all up with that cornerstone. Preserve your integrity. It's a surprisingly comprehensive and, moral framework.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how Barnum, this master showman, this larger-than-life figure, laid out principles that are so fundamentally grounded in human behavior, in common sense, and, in enduring ethical conduct. His insights into real economy versus fake thriftiness, the dangers of vanity, the power of personal exertion and focus, and that non-negotiable value of integrity. They just transcend the centuries. They transcend technology.
Really do.
These aren't just quaint old rules from the 1880s gathering dust on a shelf. They feel like timeless principles for anyone seeking not just to get money, as he puts it, but to build a life of real independence, of purpose, of genuine satisfaction. He connects financial success so deeply to character.
Which leaves us and leaves you with a final provocative thought to maybe chew on after this deep dive wraps up. What stands out most to you from Barnum's golden rules? It's maybe that idea that true wealth isn't just the number in your bank account, but the richness of your character, the state of your health, the genuine connections you build. Or perhaps how many of these warnings from the 19th century about false appearances, about scattered powers, about those tempting outside operations, how strongly do they echo in our own hyper-connected, easily distracted, maybe even more image-obsessed 21st century world? Are we in our own modern ways still falling for lifestyle creep and letting Mrs. Grundy, or maybe today it's Instagram envy dictate our spending? Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
See you next time.